Peace everyone, Unmasked here and welcome back to the Drawing Journal. In fact, this is the last Drawing Journal for 2018, which is pretty exciting. This has been an absolute fantastic year, for sure, for my channel, for my career, for everything, for life in general. It's been quite a ride. And for today's drawing journal, as you can see, my layout is a little bit different, and that is because I am doing some critiques of your best work that you've done in 2018. I have a lot of them. It's going to take me a while to get through them, as you can see the list off here to the right. I'm going to give you my best input where you can improve in the new year, and we'll all just go from there. Tomorrow I will be streaming the first pastel tutorial over on Patreon, so make sure you go over there and pledge and join me on tomorrow's stream. Real quick, let me say hello to everyone. Hello Tyler, Zanab, Bad Vibes, Sneaks, Jason, Julia, Jaguar, Jeff, Lily, Lindy. It's awesome. Good to see everyone here. Yes, Happy New Year to everyone. Hello Christine, I see you as well. Well, almost Happy New Year. Happy New Year's Eve. I hope you guys have a fantastic one. Anyways, since I have so many pictures that I need to go through, let's go ahead and get started. So first up is Deb. She did this lovely digital portrait. This is a digital drawing of a dog, obviously. And first off, let me just say that I am not a digital artist, and I don't know if I have the patience to do a digital painting this realistic. It's very, very good. The colors are great on the dog. The details are superb. The colors look good. Now there are a few things that I feel confident to talk about on this, and the first thing that I would say is I'm not sure, I don't think this blue background is helping the piece very much. I'm going to do a quick adjustment layer on the blues really quick. Yeah, there is some blue. There is some blue in the dog itself. So let me just make sure that I'm selecting just the background. There we go. And let's pull down the saturation of the background a little bit, because I think that's what is doing it for me, is that the background just is stealing the show a little bit from the dog. So if I pull out some of those blues from the background and I desaturate it a little bit, already you're starting to see the main subject of the dog pop through. And I also noticed that you wanted a little bit of a light. You wanted a little bit of light coming from the left side. So I think a better way to do that is to take a really big, large, round brush with just white. Click it. My brush is really low opacity. And then change your layer settings to like soft light or something like that. And then you can go in and you can control. Oh gosh, my windows are popping up on different screens. Then you can control the lightness and darkness of that light. So maybe something like that. So that gives you a little bit of that glow with just a little layer of white. What else could we do here? The other thing with portraits, remember that with portraits, the eyes are always, you know, going to be really, really important. So I think you could have benefited a bit from possibly going just a little bit brighter in the highlights with the eyes, and maybe even splashing in like a bright yellow. Maybe just a touch more yellow. Maybe a little bit of red, brown, just to get those eyes to really pop a little bit more. The other thing that you could have done is, if you really wanted to go with this purple blue background, is you could have brought in more purple into the dog. just maybe not that much, but just a tiny bit more purple into the fur. That will let the dog sit in that bright blue background a little bit more naturally. So you can add some purple blue to the dog a little bit, and then if you wanted to reinforce a different colored light, maybe you wanted an orange light, so grab a little bit of orange, and you could paint the light side of the dog orange, and then you're playing with complements. You have a little bit of blue, you have a little bit of orange, and so you have a really nice complement there. So that's how I think that you could improve this portrait. The other thing that I think you could probably have done is had a fade on the bottom here. So instead of this hard edge, you could have faded it with the fur texture, or you could fade it just into, I'm just doing it really quickly here, but I think the fade makes it look a little bit more natural, as opposed to having like this arbitrary hard edge. It just fits better in the overall composition. All right, so I think I am done with that one. Let's go to Vash. This, I believe, is a colored pencil. I tried to remember what everyone said about their creations that they posted over in the Unmasked Family Facebook page. So I'm gonna have a hard time remembering all the mediums and what you guys were kind of looking for me to critique on. So anyway, this one, there is not a lot to say here. This drawing is fantastic. Obviously the details are very accurate, the colors are very bold, and it's very well executed. Now I can't tell whether or not it's the photograph or not that is doing what I'm about to complain about, but there's three immediate things that I find that appear unnatural to me in this image. The first and most glaring to me, hold on, let me make a layer. The first is the beak here, and all the white, like the white skin and the beak here. The problem that I'm having here is that I just don't feel like you're contouring it enough. I feel like it's missing a bit of depth to it. And if you maybe you have to break away from the reference photo a little bit to bring in a bit more shape to the beak here. Even if it's mostly white in the reference photo, it's gonna serve itself better if you give it a little bit more dimension by adding more shadow here. And the same thing with the skin. So like there should be some shadow going on here. Top part of the eye would be shaded a bit down here where it starts to curve. So you can see right there, it just gives it just a tiny bit more dimension and makes it stand out a bit more. In the same thing, so number 2 is the eye. If you come in here with the eye and you just, let's grab a green. If you just start to shade the eye a little bit, you're gonna find that it starts to appear, it starts to appear more three-dimensional. So I'm just going to give the eye a little bit of extra shading here, and then I'll grab white and give it, polish off with a nice bright highlight. Your eye kind of misses the highlight, so now you can see everything that I added. The beak and the face just has a little bit more contour to it, and the eye starts to pop out even more than what you have it. And you can darken the edges of the eye a bit more to really get it to pop, just like that. A little bit of black up at the top, and that just gives it a much more cylindrical shape, which eyes have. This is why I don't do digital digital live streams because it is next to impossible for me to follow the live chat and do the digital stuff at the same time. So if I missed any questions, I really, really apologize. Hello, Miriam, Shiny, Rob, Gabor, good to see you. Joy, Andrea, hopefully I didn't miss anybody. If I did, I apologize. But anyways, I'm gonna get right back to this. The third and minor one for this drawing here is the foot. Everything just seems perfect, with the exception of these a bit of extra shading here. And again, that could just be the photograph because it looks like the photograph has been heightened up on the contrast. But the separation of the feathers and the foot here down at the bottom, they just don't sit well with me, and I feel like it should be a little broken up. The transition between the feathers and the foot, it doesn't feel natural to me. And so if the feathers had come in a little bit more on the foot, and then also the shading on the foot, it should be a little bit darker down here because I feel like the light is coming from this direction. And if it was just a tiny bit darker around these edges here or something, then the foot fits in with the bird a little bit better, a little bit more natural. There we go. So that's the changes that I would suggest with your bird here. All right, I think that's good. That one drawing is pretty much perfect. So only very, very small minor changes. Oh, hello, Catrice. Hopefully I did not miss anybody else coming in. Yes, I am using Photoshop CC 2018. You can see up here at the top. Maybe. It's really small. Anyways, Rob, you are next. I see that you are a little nervous, but don't worry. Your drawing is fantastic. I love it. You already know that I'm in love with this pose. Your reference photo must have been just amazing to work from. Anyways, there are some things I think you can improve on. Let's go over what I think is probably what's holding this drawing back the most, okay? And it is your skin. Your skin has a lot of potential. It has a ton of potential. I like that I'm not seeing a bunch of white paper. That's one of the biggest problems that I am seeing from artists when they work with colored pencils, especially, and they're doing skin tones, is that they let the paper show through in order to like make highlights. For instance, this foot is nicely colored in with, you know, like a medium peachy color, which is great. And you have some really difficult anatomy going on here in the torso with just this pose in general is just not easy to work with. There's a lot of muscles that's going to be moving. You have the rib cage that's going to come in. And I would say the two biggest errors that I see in this drawing overall is the stomach and the neck. Those two areas are certainly going to be the most difficult with this drawing. So I commend you for the attempt. But the other thing, I'm not going to go over like the anatomy with the drawing, the shading, because the drawing looks correct, but the color changes the anatomy based on where you put your shadows and stuff. But the skin color in general is what I wanted to go over. The color that I feel like you're missing is Ninja Purple. Definitely missing Ninja Purple. And if you had just a bit of purple coming in to the skin, you'll start to see that in the transition between the shadows and the base skin color, so like here, just add a small amount of purple in those shadows. Only adding a tiny, tiny bit, especially on the face here. So if there was a little bit more purple in the shadows, I think that your skin would appear to be a bit more lively. You could also sneak in a bit more red into the tone the base colors of the skin. You add a bit more red in there. Without the reference photo, it's hard for me to say where your colors are off, but just based on my experience, they're just missing a bit of life tones, especially this foot. Feet aren't just one color. There should definitely be some nice pinks and oranges and purples and all of that down there. The other thing that kind of threw me off in this picture was this transition here between her left clavicle bone and her neck. Overall, the skin tone somewhat matches between body parts, but the one body part that sticks out the most is the head. Is that it seems like you used a whole different set of colors for just the head and neck, and then the body was a whole different other set. The head appears to be much more yellow, whereas the body has more orange tones to it. And so that transition there, that transition right in here seems to be a little miscalculated in color choice. Sometimes with highlights on the skin, I've said this a few times in tutorials, but when it comes to highlights on the skin, it's not always about making the highlights brighter. In most cases, if not all cases, it's about making the skin surrounding the highlight darker. So if we had some of these darker tones in here, I don't know where the highlights actually, based on the reference photo, since I don't have the reference photo here, but a lot of the highlights would pop out more if you just had darker skin overall in the shadows. And to be honest with you, I feel like the light for this image is maybe a direct light. I can't really tell. It could just be a soft light. Either way, the shadows would benefit from being a bit darker. So in some of these really dark behind parts, especially this leg down here, don't be afraid to go dark. Get some dark brown red colors in there. Maybe a little bit more red. There we go. This is like the 407 color that I use, the luminance 407 color. If you, it looks like you're using polychromos though. So like 280, polychromos like color 280. But if we just darken up these shadows a little bit, I don't want to spend too much more time on this, but I just like it a lot, so it's hard not to. Yeah, so there's plenty of work there with the skin. You can go darker. You can go darker. Don't be afraid to go darker. Okay. So here's what I changed so far. I just you know, smoothed out some of the colors and darkened the skin overall. And you can kind of see how the those shadows make a little bit of a difference. The same thing goes with this cloth. The shadow side of this cloth could be much darker as well. The next thing that stands out is the hair. The hair just does not feel natural, and what I think you're missing with the hair, I'm going to put this on another layer. The colors are great. You have great color with the hair. This is going to be the last thing with this drawing here, is that you have these shapes. These, I always call them squiggly diamonds, but make those shapes deep. Don't be afraid to darken those shapes, the squiggly diamonds that you'll inevitably be able to pick out in your reference photo. The deeper you make them, the more depth you're going to give your hair. And that's going to let your highlights pop out a little bit more. Speaking of highlights, I think that you could go brighter with your highlights. If you have the titanium white by brush and pencil, the touch-up texture and stuff, you might be able to use a brush to pull out some bright highlights and then color them in again. But bring your flyaways all over the place. That's what you're missing here. Take some of your dark color, take some of your light color, your highlights, and watch what happens to the hair once I just throw in a few crisscrossing flyaways throughout the hair. All right, and then I'm going to do the same thing with the dark color. Let's go with a little bit darker, a little bit redder, a little bit more saturated. So I'm just going to bring in a few flyaways here, and let your flyaways be much looser. Your curls here are a bit stiff. All right, your curls are just a bit stiff. Let your hand flow almost in a swoopy, like flashy, jerky motion. There. So that's what I did with the hair. Deepen your squiggly diamonds and then add some flyaways. Now you can see the hair just feels like it has more body to it because I deepened those squiggly diamonds. Okay. All right, that's it for you, Rob. Fantastic work. Keep it up. I look forward to seeing more of your yoga poses in the year to come. Oh goodness. 20 minutes, I've done 2 of them. Okay, let's try to move this along. All right, this one here is from Anne. This is a pastel landscape. First thing, colors are great. Love the colors. I love the scene. I love the contrast. I love the composition. Everything about this is working really, really well. It has somewhat of a kind of a freestyle feel to it, a little bit less realism and a bit more impressionistic with just everything in general. But if you weren't going for that, there's a few really quick ways that I think you could increase the quality of this pastel painting. The first thing is to add some texture here in the shadow. You have some squiggly white stuff going on here, and my best guess is that that's like a stick or something lying on the ground. But what you could do is you could take some of your lighter browns, and you could just come in here and create a bit of highlight on some texture, tiny bit. If you don't want a lot of attention drawn to this area, it looks like based on the amount of pastel you scraped down onto the paper, that you want more attention here in the grassy part, but a few light brown highlights down here will give the viewer a sensation that they might have a better idea what they're looking at, which I think is the ground. I'm not quite sure what I'm looking at down here. That's the problem. Considering it takes up about 1/4 of your entire paper, it's important to not waste 1/4 of the paper with something the viewer can't quite understand. But other than that, another thing that you could do here is to add blades of grass. I'm not sure what your approach was for the scraping the pastels down. I know it's a fun technique, but I think you might have overdone it just a tad. If you had maybe taken a light, maybe a medium green. Yeah, let's take a medium green first. I'm going to change my brush really quick. And you just added some blades of grass. And remember, as you get closer, your blades of grass get taller. Let's grab a darker green. We just want a little bit of texture. Yeah, that's too big. Yeah, we just want a little bit of texture in the grass. And if you give us that, I don't know what's going on with this brush. I have the wrong color. There we go. Yeah, give us a little bit of texture in the grass, and don't overdo it with the scraping. That little bit of texture there will tell the viewer that they're looking at grass and not like confetti, like orange, brown, green confetti. And then you can give it a soft blend, and the softer the blend, the softer the grass will appear. So that's one other thing that you could do to, I think, make this drawing a little bit better. Sorry, my brushes never save for some reason. I can't figure out why. There we go. Yes, so the other thing is to add the precision of your trees in the back. If you give them a little bit more form, give the bottom part more body. Sorry. Oh, it was done. Okay, so your picture was done with luminance. Then use 866, 862, 093, and 407. Sorry. It would be great to study the before and after the stream. Could you upload it to the Facebook group? Oh man, there's so many drawings. I will try. I'll try. We'll see at the end. Is the music supposed to be that loud? I'll turn it down a little bit. Sorry. Okay. All right. Let's see here. Yes. So the tree here. Add just a little bit more body to it, and maybe a few extra branches of a darker color. Okay, you're just losing a little bit of contrast potential in these tall trees here that you have. Don't be afraid to go out over the sky either. Yeah. So those trees now just have a little bit more body to them. All right, so that's good. That's good for that one. Good job, Anne. All right, next up is Gina, and as you can see, she did the wolf pastel tutorial that I finished last week, or was it the week before? I don't even remember. It was sometime in December, I'm sure. And you did a fantastic job. You have a lot of room for improvement, which is always great. Let's start with what I always say when it comes to a portrait. What's the most important? The eyes. The eyes are always the most important, and I think that you have some room for improvement on the eyes. The first thing is that your eye is just too yellow. Bring in another color. So let's add some orange into the eye. Just splash in a little bit of orange. The other thing is that your eye doesn't have that spherical shape that eyes have. So it's lost its dimension. It's just a bit too flat. So the first thing you can do is you know, splash some fun colors in there, and then you need to increase your contrast. So the cast shadow at the top, you're gonna have a nice cast shadow right at the top of the eye, and then a little splash of highlight down here, and let's do a little highlight right there. So now the eye already has a lot more dimension to it. It pulls the viewer in when you pay attention to the eye. The other thing is around the eye, you always want to make sure that you're framing the eye really well. So if you darken the fur around the eye, now you have a good frame for the eye. Having a really good eye is not, the eyeball itself isn't enough. You have to support it with a really good frame. Oh goodness. Anyways, let's see. The other thing that you can improve on is your base layer. You want to get your colors blended together so that you don't have this patchiness. What I mean by that is you have like this greenish brownish color here, and then you have just this pure grayish white here, and there's no overlap. So take your browns on your base layer and get everything a little brown. Get those transitions more brownish. Oh, thank you so much, Margo. I really appreciate that. The super chat. How awesome are you? Thank you. I lost my train of thought. Yes, more brown. Get more browns into your fur, and make all the colors more harmonious. That's what you're missing here. You're missing some harmonious colors. They should all be resembling one another. Remember, it's all the same animal, right? So get some browns in there. Get you know, you have some nice oranges. You want to pull in some of those bright oranges into the fur. Give the fur some character. Something like that. The other thing, leave your brightest colors for your highlights. You're a bit too bright overall in this white fur right here. Tone it down a little bit. And that way when you grab your white pastel, so I'm going to grab this color right here. So when you grab your white pastel, you can come in here and you can really increase where those highlights start to show up on the wolf's fur up here. Right? Now you can really get those highlights to stand out more now that everything is darkened. Katu2111, thank you so much for the super chat donation. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much. Let's see what else. The other thing here is that your brush strokes, your pencil strokes, your pastel strokes, I actually don't know what to call them. They're too short. They're good on the face. They're good on the face, but you left them too short back here. The wolf's fur back here is much longer, much longer. So if you increase your pastel strokes, as I'm doing here, you'll notice that the fur gets longer. So that's what you're missing there also. You need to just fill it in. Get those pastel strokes much longer. You gotta remember, it's not always about direction or color. Sometimes it's about the length as well. So don't forget that. And then also don't forget the whiskers. I'm pretty sure I threw whiskers in. And then these dots here, those dots are much too circular. On the wolf, they're zigzagged and they're all out of whack. They're not in a perfect line like you have them here. They're more zigzaggy like that. All right, so that's how you can improve. Harmonious colors, get everything a little bit more brown, and then, you know, dynamic eyes. You gotta make your eyes dynamic. All right, good job, Gina. All right, Gobbler, you are next. And I can't believe you sent me this painting. Why on earth would you send me this painting? There's literally nothing that that you need to improve on in this painting. Okay? You don't. Stop pretending like there is something that you can do. No, but seriously, this is a fantastic painting. I've already told you this several times. It's wonderful. I love the colors. And where I think you could probably expand, okay? So there's not much improvement that I could ever say about this painting, but where I think you could expand is add some life. Add some life to your painting. Get outside your comfort zone. Pick an animal. Pick a person. It doesn't matter. Pick something. You have a beautiful silhouette of a tree here, and this scene is just great. You created a wonderful scene here. But if you had, and I'm gonna make a fool of myself right now trying to do this, but if you had taken the same color and maybe you had painted a little person, a little kid or something running down the hill. Some kind of life, something else that the viewer can get behind and be like, oh, I love that. I love that touch of detail. Maybe it's a couple kids running down. You know, they're playing tag or something like that. You know, if you had some life, some tiny detail that when you look at it, when you look at the painting, you're like, wow, that scene is great. And then when you you know, look at it, just you examine it just a tiny bit closer, and you see, oh look, there's kids running down the hill, playing tag or whatever. You can take the viewer's interest even farther. Or if you were to, you know, maybe not kids, maybe instead of that you have a deer or something standing here. Maybe you have a little deer or a horse or something. I'm just sketching these out because they're in the distance, but anything that would change the level of detail, you could take it one step further with that. But otherwise, it's hard for me to say anything about this painting because you did such a good job at it. But anyway, that would be my advice for moving on in the future. Take yourself outside your comfort zone. I know you can draw trees. I know you can do grass. I know you can do bushes and flowers and all of that and buildings. I want to see some life in your work now. That's what I look forward to in the next year. So excellent job with that painting. All right, next up is Chrissy from Chris Art. You guys all know Chrissy. Also, I want to say thank you to her for the lovely card that she sent Anna and I. We really appreciate that. And I was waiting specifically for today's live stream to say thank you. All right, Chrissy, where do you want to go with your artwork? I'm not gonna lie, I was actually surprised that you posted this one as your favorite for the year. I kind of really liked the steampunk one with the mirror that led into like a new world and the ship and all of that stuff. I really like that one, and I thought that you were gonna send me that one. But where could we improve on this? There's a couple things. Really, there's only maybe 3 things that I can say about this where you can improve on. The first thing is just a pet peeve that is going to be going throughout all of these critiques that I'm doing today, and that is the eyes. The eyes. You can go deeper with the eyes. Never let your eye just even appear to be 2 colors. Let's add something. Let's add like a golden yellow color here. Maybe a little bit lighter. No, it's too light. So a little bit more golden. There we go. And let's just add a little bit more color into the eye. Just a tiny bit. And then let's get that highlight. Let's get the highlight here. And the tear duct of the horse. Might even have to go smaller with that. The tear duct of the horse. Anything to draw more attention to the eye. That's what I want to see. No more mediocre eyes, people. After today's live stream, I better not. Next year, when I do this again, critiquing the best of 2019, I don't want to see any more mediocre eyes. All right, I'm throwing you out of the family. No, I'm kidding. All right, so the eye. You can bring more shape to it. Never let it just be one color and a highlight. No matter how small it is, throw it in there even if you can't tell. All right, the next thing that I think that would benefit this drawing is more color. More of just about any color. I'm gonna pick a random color. Let's pick kind of an aqua green. All right. And I'm just going to start putting this places. So I'm going to put a little bit in the background, just a tiny touch of aqua green, maybe up at the top and up at the bottom, or down at the bottom a little bit. And then you have a lot of the purple from the background in your reindeer horse thing. So I need to bring in some of this aqua green into the horse, into the fur a little bit. There. So now we could change that color. You know, if I don't want aqua green, maybe just like more blue, a little bit more blue instead of green, or I can go more green. I can go yellow. Red kind of looks nice. Red looks interesting, but I kind of like the aqua. I like the aqua color that I chose. You did good with the purple. Now you just need another color. The purple and the yellow, orange, brown color. There needs to be a third color to kind of balance those 2 things out, in my opinion, because today is just my opinion. Let's see. The other thing that you could work on is the hair. The hair lacks form, it lacks body, it just lacks. So what you can do with the hair, it's difficult for me to really determine what is happening with the hair, but one of the things that I think is obvious is that it doesn't actually appear to have like any shadows. The hair doesn't really appear to have much shading to it, which does not lend itself well to looking like hair. It has like these flowing strands, but it lacks some definition to convince the viewer that it is actually hair. So find your squiggly diamonds. Find the squiggly diamonds and color those in. I'm just kind of making them up based on what I think the hair is supposed to be doing. Squiggly diamonds. Trying to create some form with the hair. Don't over highlight your hair. That's another thing. From my perspective, this hair is supposed to be white, but even white hair has some dark grays in it. Mostly it's gray. Because the light does not hit every side of every strand of hair. So don't be afraid. If you're going for white hair, you just can't use the white pastel. You want to create some dimension to your hair. Just use the right colors for it to be white. Then, just like with Rob's drawing, your flyaways, they're just a bit stiff. They're just a bit stiff, and they have this repetition to them. They're just too repetitive. So let's grab this gray color. I'm gonna change my brush really quick. Yeah, that's good. The top side is a little boxy. If you just add some nice flyaways off the top. Let your hand move more free when you're doing your flyaways. I might be overdoing this, but let's grab a nice purple. Gotta have dark flyaways too. Cutting across all those light colors will just help convince the viewer that there's a ton of hair. There. So, I put that all on the same layer, but there's the hair, there's the third color, a little bit of the teal green or whatnot. But yeah, that's about all. That's about all I could really add to this painting here. It's really great. I just feel like the hair could have more body to it, a bit more detail. But other than that, fantastic work. I look forward to continuing to see what you create in the future over on the streams and stuff. All right, up next is Stefania. I hope that I pronounced that correctly. And she did a very lovely still life of an apple, which looks like graphite to me. There's not a whole lot here that I could really critique. It's a great image. This apple looks very familiar. I think I might have done this in colored pencils before. But a few things that I think that could be improved on is the sharpness of the edge of the apple. So let me just grab whatever color here. If you just increase the sharpness of that edge and really separate it from the background, it's going to make your apple stand off the page a lot better. It's going to make it look more realistic. So let's just increase the sharpness of that edge. Get rid of that feathering. There we go. Now you can already see, oh, you know what, I accidentally did that on the original layer. Let me see if I can undo all that. Yeah, that's close enough. All right. Yeah, let me just redo that really quick. Sharpen up the edge. And you can already see how the illusion of depth in the image increases a lot just by having a nice clean edge around your apple. Usually you have this fear of having an outline, and in most cases you don't really want an outline, but you can see just how much that makes the apple pop off the page a bit more. You could also use a kneaded eraser to maybe, I always got to change my brushes. You could use a kneaded eraser to lift off some of the graphite right here, this edge, just to brighten up the highlight a little bit, increase that sensation of light. I think that this corner is distractingly dark. Distractingly dark. I think it would have been a little bit better if the color was not if you didn't go so dark here in the corner. Sorry, I kind of messed that up a little bit. But had the right side stayed dark, I think that works fine, because the light source is from the left side. Yeah, that's pretty much it with this one. The drop shadow looks, yeah, the drop shadow looks good. You could probably do, let's see, this is your darkest color. I'm trying to work based on your colors here, so I'm not artificially adding contrast that's not capable. Sharpen that edge down at the bottom. Soften the edge. Just a little bit. There. The different colors of the apple, you want your highlight to be the brightest. So make sure that your highlight is the brightest. Darken this side of the apple since the light source is on the left side. Just by darkening the right side a little bit more, this highlight starts to pop off the apple that much more. Alright, so that is it. Yeah, you can see just brings more attention to the apple. Cuts off the this kind of dissonance between the backdrop and the apple. If you hadn't went so dark on the left side. Oh goodness, I still have like a million more to go. Let me double check, make sure I'm not missing any of your questions. Oh goodness. Try to please everybody makes you please nobody. Has followers from all over the world. I don't know if you're talking to me or responding to somebody. Yeah. Always Monday streams will be on YouTube. Yes. I'm not sure if that's a question, but the answer is yes, if it is. Yeah, I still do the pastel tutorials, but they will be over on Patreon. Every Tuesday, every Tuesday will be the pastel tutorial. The Facebook group is in the video description, the link for that. Hello, Barbara. All right. Oh, let's. How many do I have left? Oh my goodness. I have so many. I have so many left. All right, Tatiana. This painting you did an excellent job on. Okay, let me just say that right off the bat. I think that you improved from the reference photo. The colors are a bit more orange. in your painting, but I think that works so much better. It works like so much better than the photograph. You had mentioned something in the comments about fixing like behind the ear or something along those lines, but really there's not a whole lot that you need to do. You have this darker brown color here that is just like right in this area. It's just a little shade, tiny shade right there behind the ear that you have off just a bit. It's just a smidge, not a whole lot. The eye looks great. The eye looks better in your painting than it does in the photo. So good job there. Excellent colors, fantastic colors. Even your nose looks better, and noses are like impossible to do. So good job on that. The anatomy looks good. Colors look good. The brush stroke for the fur looks good. I mean, all of it is just working really, really well. Except one thing. You put in, I understand why you changed the background, and I think it was a good choice, but your background is competing with your foreground. You just have too much going on in the background now. You could go with what you have here. You could definitely have gone with a toned purple background, but I think you went too much in the background, just a bit too much in the background, and so I'm going to just cover up those details with a little bit of purple. You could still do this with your painting, you know, just take I think you used acrylic for this, if I'm not mistaken, but do a wash over your background and make those bokeh circles a little softer, a little less noticeable. Probably don't use like pure purple, maybe a gray purple. If you desaturate your background a little bit, I think that will also make it look a bit better. You can go darker with your background. So maybe a bit of black and a bit of purple, and just do like a light wash of it. You can keep the left side brighter. You have more leniency there. Make the bottom a bit darker. Something like this. You can keep a little bit of light here on the top left to give you that sensation of light. And then you can go even darker down here at the bottom right corner. And then what I think you could do is do just a subtle wash over the bottom part of the cat itself. So I'm just taking a little bit of black here and I'm just washing it right over top of the color. Now I'm going to go really dark here and just watch what happens. So really dark down here with the black. All the way around. Reinforces that light, right? Brings more attention to the face, because now this is starting to disappear. You have enough details in the face. It's perfect. You have too much details in the cat down here. Nobody wants to see this part of the cat. Everybody wants to look right here. So that's where you want to focus the light. So if you kind of vignette this bottom right corner, you'll push more focus to the face of the cat. So here's what we started with. Here's what I recommend, or here's what I can critique, I guess. Anyways, Tatiana, the painting is just fantastic. Excellent job. All right, moving right along. Here is Annabelle, and I think she used the same reference photo that I did in the past for the owl eyes. If I'm not mistaken, this is an owl and is an eye. And I changed the orientation because I think this is the orientation it's supposed to be. Anyways, it looks like pastels. You have great texture here. It looks like from the photograph there's kind of this weird shadow going on, but I'm just going to ignore that. Again, with the eyes, Again with the eyes. If you're going to make the eye the focus, you really got to push yourself with the contrast. So you have this nice bright yellow. That's nice. You have some orange coming in here. You could probably bring in a little bit more of this orange, bring it down a little bit farther. Centralize that highlight of the eye, just like that. Very simple. You have your black up here. That's great. You need your blacks, but you're missing something. You're missing any sense of light in your highlight. So let's go with a bit of blue here. There we go. Some blue in the eye. I think because you're working with pastels, it's safe to say that you can go darker. So let's go a little bit darker, all the way up at the top. Let the cast shadow drape over the eye. Let it drape over the eye. Make it look circular. All of that, right? And down here, the edges of the eye could definitely be a little bit darker. Get those details in there sharp with the eyes. And then you can take your highlight, and let's just put a highlight right here for whatever reason. Little highlight, maybe a sprinkle of highlight right in here, just to brighten that. And then the water line of the eye, those little highlights that happen there around the water line. And what about texture in the eye? You definitely want to have some texture in the eye. So when it comes to working the texture in the iris, put like a vanishing point in the center of the pupil, and then just bring a bunch of lines out like this. Just keep going with that pattern. Change up your colors a little bit, maybe go a little bit darker. You can do a bunch of different colors. Let's go with a more rich orange. There, a little bit of texture and whatnot. So there's where your eye started, and here's where I think that you could take it if you just put more time in and focused on expanding the contrast, the value of your eye. Anyways, so fantastic work, Annabelle. Keep it up, and I look forward to seeing more. All right, next one is Margo. Hello, Shiny. Now this one, what I remember is it was a quick sketch, like 10-minute sketch from a live studio drawing, which is cool. I like some of the colors that you chose to go with here. You have kind of this greenish marker, this like medium green marker, and then you have more of this limey green marker, and then you have some splashes of red, and even some like lighter brownish yellow colors. So I like the colors that you chose. I think where you could improve in the future with your quick sketches, it looks like you had access to pencil here. Looks like you had access of pencil, and you spent a little bit of time with the pencil to sketch out the anatomy of the woman that you're drawing, and that's great. You should definitely spend some time doing that. Now I'm going to focus more on your baseline sketches for this drawing. Now I don't have the reference photo of the pose that you were looking at since it was a live drawing, but what you could work on is focus on your anchor points. That would be the shoulder, the elbow, the hips, the knee, the ankle, and then you can use the head. So when you're doing a live drawing, you want you can focus on these anchor points here to quickly identify the structure of your your person. So if you look at this this connection here, you know that there's another shoulder behind it coming down. The second elbow, if her other arm is out here like that, then her second elbow is there. So there'd be a little curve there. Then you have this nice curve from the back to the butt, which looks good. That curve you got really well. You have the stomach here, kind of, you have this arm kind of cutting into the stomach, but then it goes like this, and then you have the hip. But here's where I'm thrown off. This leg comes here. You're putting your other knee all the way down here, so that's where you got it wrong. So your leg here, either this knee is up too high or this knee is just way down too far, because your other leg should be closer to here, foot coming out like that. That's where your other leg should be at. Based on the distance from the hip to the knee and then from the knee to the ankle, this knee looks too close to the hip, so it's probably closer to here, and then you'd have this curve from the calf muscle like that. But I know it's a quick sketch and I'm being nitpicky, but yeah. The other thing is the thing that complements nice curvy lines are better straight lines. Again, I know this is a quick sketch, but try to get your vertical lines vertical. Try to get your vertical lines vertical, okay? That's really important. Get your horizontal lines horizontal. In fact, I think this box here should probably be turned. This line is more horizontal than the bottom, so what I think would serve better is to make sure that it's in perspective. This line would come down, and if it's a box, this line is parallel, and then it goes back like this. So get your straight lines straighter. Even with a quick sketch, it's worth doing. This, I don't know if the chair is turned away from the box, but just like your body here has anchor points that you can use to map out really quickly where the body parts are going, when you look at your scene here, you have this chair, you have this box, look at the legs. You have these legs here. What relationship do these legs have to the corner of this box? Were they back farther? Were they up like that? So if they are and they're horizontal like this, then the box is turned, it's twisted away from the chair. It's hard to tell whether that's the case here, but this cushion, parallel, this cushion, parallel. Get these lines straight, top of the chair, parallel. These are all boxes, right? So just keep that in mind when you're sketching the shapes. In your live drawing like this, you want to get the body and everything correct, but you also want to make sure that you have it correct in relationship to the objects as well. And because the objects are straight and square and they're very clear shapes, you might be able to use that as a quicker way to set up your scene for your drawing. Anyways, that's pretty much all I can do for this sketch. I love it, and I wish I could have been there to participate in the fun. Alright, next up is Tammy, and this one is of a cat, and if I'm not mistaken, this is pastels. And there's probably a few things that you guys can guess by this point what I would correct. So, starting with the obvious, the eyes. If you just take a darker color, and contrast the tops just a little bit, you don't have to go too extreme, contrast the tops. You can add some texture. Let's bring in a little bit of orange. nice orange color. Cat eyes have a lot of visual interest, so let's just bring in a little bit of color here. Let's go even darker. Small details. I'm just scribbling in a few lines for the texture in the cat's eyes, just like that. Let's go. What color is cat eyes? I don't even know what cat eyes look like. Let's go with a bit darker orange, more saturation. Go under the eye, just form the eye a little bit more. There we go. And then we can take a nice bright highlight. Nice bright highlight. And let's say the light is over here. There we go. So a little bit more character in the eyes. And it wouldn't even have taken too much time to do that. Just increase the shadow being cast from the fur, from the eyebrow essentially, and then let it curve over. You can do that with the pupil also. Put a little bit of blue in the pupil. There you go. And maybe some darker color at the bottom. Anyways, there's a whole lot you could do. You could shape the eye a bit more with a darker color. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Christine and Cece, for the super chat donations. You guys are so awesome. You are very welcome, Christine. I think I missed my critique, got here late. Let me check. Nope. There's still a few more, Barbara, before I get to yours. Alright, so back to this one. The eyes. Alright? I'm really hitting that today. It's all about the eyes when it comes to portraits. The other thing is that your cat matches your background too much. It looks like it's a gray cat, but I did a tutorial last year about white fur, and white fur is never white. It's never white and it's never just gray. So let's give this cat a little bit of brown. Let's just add touches of brown around the transition from the shadows to the highlights. A little bit of brown around the nose, around the eyes. You know, just a touch of brown. Let's go with a bit of pink in the ears. Make those ears look a little translucent. Touch of pink in the ears. And if we want the cat to look brighter, well, then we just go darker with the background. Let's see here. Let's go with a little bit of blue in my shadow color. I'm just going to zoom out a little bit, and I'm just going to darken up around the cat. Instead, you kind of have dark edges, and then you get brighter as you get closer to the cat, which I think you should do the opposite. Go darker around the cat. Touch of blue. Go darker around the cat. And now that all of a sudden the cat pops off the page, right? So I'm just going to color in the background really quick. Yeah, now the cat, even though we added blue, it still looks like the grayish white that I imagine it's supposed to be. It pops off the page more because it doesn't match the color of the background so much. So anyway, hopefully that helps a little bit there. Fantastic work, Tammy. Keep it up. All right, next one is Kathleen. And is this a digital painting? No, this has got to be pastels, right? I'm pretty sure this is pastels. It's an adorable little pig. Super adorable. I love pigs. They're like one of the cutest animals. I can't believe people eat them. Anyways, sidetracking. Again with the eyes. Again with the eyes. Let's see what we could have done with these eyes. Let's just take a little bit of blue. Now, let's just imagine this pig is outside, because pigs are usually outside. Eyes will reflect the sky. So if you bring in a little bit of blue at the top, right around this highlight here, then it looks like it already looks like the pig is more outside with some of the blue in the eyes. You can go darker on the bottom here. You can go darker on the top here. Just bring a little bit more spherical shape to the eye. You could probably have went darker in the nostril, because those holes are probably pretty deep, I'm guessing. You kept this painting rather loose, and so I'm gonna take that into account. You kept it loose for I don't know, just to keep it loose. But the problem is that you have too much detail in the back here in comparison to the face. So you can either blend out, let's see if I can do this. Let's just go like this. You can blend out the back side of the pig more. Let's just do this. Yeah, let's blur that out. And then what I'm going to do is just create a mask, invert it, and take a brush. So let's just blur out some of the back part a bit more. And as this gets out of focus more and more, you'll see that the pig's face automatically just pops off the page. So you can blur out those colors and keep it real loose, not have to go in here and add a whole bunch of more details, and you can see how it makes the face of the pig pop off the page that much more. Since you're keeping it loose, it doesn't really matter how much you blend out the legs there and the back, because it's kind of like that depth of focus with a camera. You know, you're focused on the face, so you want the face to show up. But other than that, the colors are fun. It's a fun little painting, and I think that for the style that it appears to be, it looks really good. You could probably sharpen up some of the details on the face, some of the fur. I noticed on the top of the ears and stuff, you have a bit more detail there. You could probably bring that same level of detail in the nose. I'm not sure what the nose looks like on a pig, so I'm not going to try to freehand it, but I think that there's more there that you could do. Otherwise, again, the eyes. Deepen the eyes, make those stand out. But very good, Kathleen. Thank you very much for submitting the drawing. Brenda, is this acrylic? This looks like acrylic paint. I think this might be acrylic paint. So let's talk about this painting, Brenda, shall we? The first thing is make sure that when you take a photograph, your finger is not in front of the lens. That's going to be my first critique here. Let's just get rid of that finger. Yeah, get out of here, finger. Yeah, that's gonna be the first thing. And this side of the painting here appears, this part here, it appears that your arm or something is casting shadow, so I'm going to ignore that. When it comes to landscapes, anything where you have the sky is like the furthest object, you have the horizon line, you have all of that. Remember these kind of general rules with landscapes. As the objects get farther and farther away, their saturation decreases and their value decreases. So the water here is far too dark at the horizon line. It should be flipped. So I'm going to try to change that. Let me see. I'm going to grab this light bluish color. Let's go here on the water. So it should be lighter here, all in the back. And then let's grab this blue. And then it should be brighter blue and darker up towards the front. Right? Should be darker up here towards the front, where there's more details. So you'll have some of your waves and whatnot. All of that. The waves will start to show here. Some of the bigger waves might ripple back there. You know, the boat. The boat sail, it most likely won't be white. It'd probably be like a dark gray with a tint of blue, maybe. Because it should be darker than the sky. The sky should be lighter than the sail of the boat. I think I can lighten the sky up a little bit. It's the wrong one. Let's just lighten up the sky. And then I'm going to have to do this on the same layer. Actually, I can just copy it. Let's just select all of this background stuff. Oh, thank you so much, Chrissy. Again, super chat donations coming in left and right today. You guys are just too awesome. Thank you so much. And you're very welcome for the tips. So for the backdrop, I'm going to desaturate and lighten. Okay, desaturate and lighten. Maybe just a little bit more. See how far we can push it, right? Maybe not that light. Let's desaturate a little bit more. Pull that down like that. All right. So now you can see that because the backdrop is lighter and less saturated, our foreground objects are popping out more and more. See how that happens? Now this I'm doing this to the extreme because the foreground is so light itself, and based on the composition here, it's difficult for the viewer to tell which object you want them to focus on. They can't tell whether or not they should be looking out into the water or they should be looking at this fence with all these lovely cast shadows. Let's grab this color real quick and darken up these birds because they should be darker than the sky. So now you can see your birds. The cast shadows are a little bit too blue, but also you forgot these. You forgot these lines here. So you have the little gate with the lines. And then also your cast shadows they just seem to stop in like random spots. Where's the cast shadow for this? Where's the cast shadow for this? What about all these fence posts over here? You probably have one sticking out here. Probably have one sticking out over here like that, right? And then you have the little thingies popping up. So you're skipping some of your details in the painting. Also, if you want the viewer to focus on more of the foreground, you'll want to increase some texture. Let's see if I have a brush that's going to give me some fun texture. I don't know what this looks like. Apparently nothing. Oh, okay, there we go. So let's just make this really big. I'm going to grab one of these colors, and I'm just going to bring in like some sandy, weird texture. Just any texture at all is going to be more beneficial to the foreground than what is going on right now. So with more texture in the foreground, just throwing it all over the place, now you can see how we've completely changed this image from being something that you're not sure whether you should be looking out at the water, you should be looking at the beach or any of that, to something where, okay, you're not supposed to look at the water and stuff. Those are just kind of secondary objects in the image. Instead, I want you to focus on these cool shadows going on, all this texture in the sand and all of that. So that's what you can work on. Establish your depth in your landscapes by following the simple rule of, as objects get closer and closer, they increase in saturation, they increase in contrast, they increase in texture. That's the general rule of landscapes. Oh, thank you, Rob, for the super chat. You guys are just on fire today with the super chat stuff. Thank you so much. Oh man, I still have a lot left to do. I've been going strong for an hour and a half. All right, I forgot what button to push. Good job, by the way, on this painting. What's happening? Brenda, keep up the good work. I look forward to seeing more of your work. All right, next up is Matthew. Oh, I've been looking forward to this one. Goodness gracious, Matthew. This, I love the style that you created here with the markers and the colored pencils. I love markers and colored pencils, so that's probably why you submitted this one. This picture is just fantastic. There's just so much character to it. There's so much uniqueness to it. I love the way that you represent each child with season. You have fall, winter, and spring. And the bouquet background, I know that you specifically watched my tutorial on how to do the bouquet background, and I think that you totally nailed it. The background looks great, and I love the way that you separated it with the seasons. Just everything about this is just super fun. Now, with that said, time to turn on the critique and give you some input. Your eyes look great. They pop off the page really well. When you look at this picture, you're drawn into the faces, you're drawn into the eyes. They really pop. But once you get past that, then you start looking around and appreciating all the details that you added to this picture. I love the white outline. It really helps bring your characters, your kids out of the image, because there's a lot of competition here with what the person should be focusing on. So that, I think that touch of white outline was a perfect idea to really bring them forward in the image. The critique part of this is going to come in terms of skin tone and anatomy. So let's just touch with the skin tone really quick. I think that you could have brought in a tiny bit more life. Again, you're missing some of my favorite ninja purple here. Okay, you're missing some ninja purple. And if you bring in, let's get off that texture brush. Now I gotta fix my brush. This drives me nuts. All right, that should be good. Yeah, that's good. If you bring in some purple into your shadows on your skin tones, you'll liven up the shadows a little bit. So I'm just going to add a touch of purple, maybe desaturate that a little bit and darken it. So just on the deep shadows, really. The face here on the baby is a little flat. It's a little flat. So I think it would benefit to have some darker tones in the skin, just to enhance the shape of it. Top side of the eye, I want to give him eyeshadow. This neck should be quite dark. Let's get a nice reddish brown, shall we? Maybe not that much saturation. It's hard for me to do this digitally because I don't really do digital work, but just increasing the contrast in the skin tone can be really scary. I know for sure from experience. Done a lot of portraits. but I think you could have taken it a bit farther here. So just a touch, not too much. All right, there we go. So just very subtly, you can see the change. It just brings a little bit more three-dimensional feel to the faces. So you can go darker in the shadows. Don't be afraid of your colors. And based on this, you don't seem to be afraid of color at all. But you can go darker with the skin. I know skin can be overwhelming sometimes, so don't be afraid to go darker. You could even go a bit brighter with the highlights, but be delicate with it. Like, you could have a lot of fun with, see, her eyes over here are closed. So you could go just a touch brighter on the eyelids to just make them stand out a little bit more. You could go a little bit brighter on the nose, right there, the tip of the nose. Give it a nice shine. The lip here, give the lip a nice gleam. Baby's nose, make that nose pop out a little bit more. The cheeks, give the baby some cheeks, right? There you go. Just a little shine on the head. You know, babies are smooth. Make them shiny. There you go. Touch of a highlight. Same thing on this kid here. Make those cheeks pop out. Make that nose pop off. Little shine right there. Tiny little shine. Right there on the lip. Nice bright shine. There we go. Now we have, that's what we did to the faces. Very, very subtle. Subtlety is the key, remember. And then just heighten some of those highlights. Just bring them forward a little bit more, and it would be perfect. Now getting into the anatomy. This baby's hand. Okay, I don't want to be. I don't want to sound mean at all. I think I've complimented this drawing enough to say this, but this baby's hand is weird as can be. The thumb, I swear this thumb has like 3 extra joints. This hand throws me off every time I look at it. So just be very, very cautious in your sketching when you're setting up, getting ready to color. Just double check, make sure that your sketch is accurate. But other than that, like that hand is the only thing. What it looks like to me is like there was a reference used, but it wasn't a hand. It wasn't a baby's hand that was used as a reference, but like an adult hand that was used as reference, because the proportion of the hand just feels weird, especially that thumb. I mean, that baby's thumb is twice as long as my thumb, I think. This thumb here on this hand also feels a little extra long to me. But that's all. Like that's all I can really say, is just be careful with your hands. But Matthew, the drawing is just, it's fantastic. I love it. Keep up the good work. All right, the next one is Gary. Let me just make sure I didn't miss anything in the chat. Oh, you're welcome, Lily. Not a problem. Happy to do it. Yeah, the subtlety is what really makes something. So just keep that in mind. It's all about the subtlety. All right, Gary. This acrylic painting, I think. This acrylic, I think this is an acrylic painting. I kind of feel like it might actually be colored pencils. I can't tell. I'm not sure if I saw Gary in the chat, so he can't tell us. Maybe he had it on Facebook. I can probably try to check. Let's see. I'll try to find it really quick. I don't want to spend too much time looking for it. Soft pastels. Okay, so it was soft pastels. I wasn't expecting that. This is fantastic. You really captured the colors like really accurate here, which makes this look like a photograph. A picture like this requires like solid color choice, and you did amazing with it. You did super amazing with it. But I think you could have taken a bit of artistic license here, because it's the eyes. Everything about this looks fantastic, but the eyes. The eyes are probably accurate to the reference photo. I'm guessing that considering the level of detail and skill that you put into this, you're probably following the reference photo like as accurately as you can, but you probably shouldn't have with the eyes, because the eyes, when you look into them, you almost have to like squint and be like, what is going on with the eyes? Because you almost can't tell if they're complete or not. And I think they would benefit, even if it's not in the reference photo, they would benefit from just a solid highlight. Maybe not that solid. Let me zoom in here in a little bit. So just a little highlight, giving them what they need to look a bit more glossy. And then if you take maybe a touch of yellow, what is going on here with this brush? A touch of yellow, and maybe just lightened the bottom part just a tiny bit. Now the eyes feel more like eyes. All I added was, just a touch of yellow to brighten the bottom side of them, and that I added that sparkle highlight in there so that the viewer knows, oh, okay, those are eyes, and they are shiny, they're glossy. I mean, the entire dog is wet, but somehow the eyes just looked really dull for some reason. So I think that you'll probably want to consider adding that sparkle of a highlight. You could also add a touch of blue. You have all these lovely blues. You have this blue in the sky. If you add just a little bit of the blue top side of the eyes to lighten them up a little bit so that they are not completely lost, now you can see the sky reflecting in the eyes. So a very small amount of detail to bring those eyes off the page a bit more and just help the viewer like look at the dog and focus on the eyes. Because right now, before, here's what the eyes looked like before, right? And for some reason, all I want to do is look down here. I just want to look at these bright, shiny spots. So by sprinkling in some shiny bits in the eyes, now I want to look at the dog's face. And then once I've established connection with the image, then my eyes wander about and appreciate all the details. So that's where I think you could have just added, a bit of your artistic license to break away from the reference photo. But the painting is ridiculously amazing, so good job, Gary. All right, next one is Heidi, and she did this adorable little raccoon. I love raccoons. They're like one of my favorite animals ever. They're just too adorable. And this looks like it was done with black and white colored pencil on Strathmore toned tan paper. Now with this, it actually looks like she might have used marker for some of the black up here. I can't really tell. Oh goodness. I want to make sure that I'm not missing anything in the chat.
Did you say rock?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly, Christine. I'm practicing for the 24-hour stream. That's exactly right. Okay, graphite and white charcoal. Okay, all right. That works too. Graphite and white charcoal. So, where do I think you could improve on this? Well, one of the things that you probably could have improved on is the overall shape of the raccoon's head popping out of the tree, because if you look at it, it doesn't really have much depth to it. It looks very two-dimensional. And what you could have done is kept the fur lighter, like around the cheeks or something like that. So I'm just going to take a little bit of darker shade, and I'm just going to go around the face like this, just a bit darker around the face, and then over the eyes. So right over the eyes, I'll just go a little bit darker over the eyes, right? Tiny bit. I'll grab a gray now, and I'm going to do the same thing with the white fur, right? I'm going to just go a little bit darker underneath where the mouth is, a little bit over here. I'm just going to go a little bit darker with the white, work that in. Over top of the eyes, just a tiny bit, darken that. Inside the ears, I'll go darker, because the ears, you know, they go down, right? And I'm going to take the light color, and I'm just going to lighten the fur where I think it would be brighter. So I'll just lighten this up a little bit. So had you not went so dark with the graphite in these selected areas, stayed a little bit grayer, now all of a sudden the raccoon's face, it has a little bit of structure to it, has a little bit of dimension to it. You have this drop shadow here around the foot. That's great. Nice little drop shadow. Where's the drop shadow over here? You missed it. Right? Pull that raccoon right off the tree with a nice drop shadow right there. Doesn't he already look like he's popping outside of the tree even more now? So here's where we're at. Here's where we started. We started with a somewhat flat looking two-dimensional image, and then just by increasing the contrast around the contours of the face, we were able to make the raccoon appear to be popping off the page a lot more. The eyes are pretty great. Based on the size of this drawing, I'd say there's not too much more you could do with the eyes. You've pretty much taken them as far as you could go. But if you darken the bit of the fur above the eye, then you'll find that the eyes stand out a little bit more. So that's where I think you can go with this one. The tree. So for the tree, I think you did yourself a bit of a disservice by going so deep and so dark with the texture of the tree, especially on this left side. I feel like some of these bits here, because of the amount of contrast that you put into them, they kind of steal the show a little bit from the raccoon. So focus more on the raccoon, because that's where you want the attention of the viewer to go. And with the tree, if you take that same dark color again, with just like the raccoon, the face was looking a little bit flat. The tree is looking a little bit flat. Let's just zoom out here a little bit and take my brush, and I'm just going to go over the edge of the tree with a dark shade, right? I'm just going to darken this edge of the tree, and I'm not going to do so much over here, actually. Actually, I'm going to take that back. I'm going to just darken the left side of the tree a little bit, right? Now what I did is I created a light source, the light source being on the right side. So I'm going to take a little bit of the white and I'm going to add white to the tree on the right side. And now not only does our raccoon look more three-dimensional, but now our tree does as well. That's what dimension creates in your image. So just keep that in mind. Remember, these shapes are three-dimensional, so you want to try to replicate that three-dimensional shape by using values to your advantage. But it's very adorable, Heidi. Like I said, I love raccoons, so you're a winner in my book. All right, the next one is, I believe, an acrylic painting by Bobby. And the painting came out great. This is a fantastic painting. As you guys can see, on the right side is the reference photo, just in case you were wondering. So this is the reference photo, this is the painting. The drawing is very accurate. The painting is well done. You have a nice blurry background, which is not easy to do, and it definitely looks like this painting took you some time. There are only a few things that I think you could improve this painting with. The first, and probably the most important, is going to be your contrast. Just like the previous image, the raccoon, Heidi's raccoon, it was looking a little bit flat because of the lack of value difference. And the same thing goes true with the horse. I'm going to just pull this color straight off from the reference photo, but it's going to increase the brightness of the highlight up here along the neck. So I'm just going to increase the brightness there and there. Let's go on the cheek here. Let's just brighten that up a little bit, and the ear. Let's brighten up the color of the ear, and maybe right here on the snout and forehead area. So I'm just going to brighten up your color. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to deepen your shadows here. So I'm just going to come in here and darken these shadows just a little bit. Let's go right under here on the jaw. Let's go inside the ear. Let's darken the inside of the ear a little bit. This area. There we go. So all I did was brighten the highlight a little bit, darken the shadows a little bit, and you can already start to see that the horse has more of a three-dimensional look to it. And it's very, very subtle. I didn't add a lot to it, right? The other thing that I think that you could change is also the eye. Let me zoom in a little bit. Let's fit this on the screen. So just like previous drawings or previous pictures that I've been working on, bring some blue into the eye. Let the sky reflect. Let the sky reflect in it. Maybe not that much blue. Let's bring down the saturation. Let's bring some of the fur color, bottom side of the eye. So just a touch. Let's see. Really, that's about it. You could even bring in a little bit more saturation into the background. You can see that the reference photo here is a bit brighter green. So if you just, let yourself bring in a bit more color into the background, I think it just helped make the picture look a little bit more lively. You desaturated it just a bit too much. I think you did better on the ground right here. I like that, but I think you can increase the saturation of that green in the background. Yeah. So that's the changes. Very, very mild. These are the If I were to get a painting to this level where you have it, I would call that the polishing stage, because I would take the painting from this level and then I would move it up to this level where I focus on just like stretching the boundaries of how much I can get it to look three-dimensional. But goodness, the painting is fantastic, Bobby. Keep it up. All right, the next one is Barbara. Barbara, you're up. Sorry it took so long. And this is actually a tutorial that I did over on Patreon quite some time ago. Still life of the pears on a metal plate, and we spent a lot of time on that tutorial on Patreon. I think we spent like 5 or 6 weeks or something like that. Oh yeah, I can imagine that horse was difficult to do, but it came out great. Okay. So, Barbara, I'm not sure if you're still here. Oh, okay, I see you. Yes. So, where can you benefit from this? The first thing is the first thing that I noticed, okay, right off the bat, is that you need a toning color. If you're using polychromos, if you're using luminance, I don't know. Let me know which pencils you're using. But you need a bright red. You need to find this color right here. This kind of like deepish red. If you're looking for it in luminance, I would go with 065 luminance would be a good one. 126 if you're with polychromos, and like 923 if you're with Prismacolor. But you need to take this toning red and you just need to do a nice coat of it on the skin of your pears here. Just a nice coat of the red. Just keep it light. You won't have to mess up your texture all that much. Speaking of which, your texture is great. A little bit of that red. And that will tone your pears much more accurately to the color that you need. The other thing is you need to really ramp up the contrast here. You need to get that 407 luminance color, that 407, that really deep brown, and you need to just come in here fearlessly and just start covering your pear and get those dimensions just like that. Get those curves, darken them. Once you do that, your pears are going to look fantastic. The next thing I want you to do is give them shadows. Don't let your drawings float, especially still life. Still life just benefits tremendously by adding shadows. Don't worry about the plate. Don't worry about being accurate. Just sketch in some drop shadows, fill them in, and your pears will look 10 times better. So there's the difference. Increase that value. Don't be afraid of the colors, Barbara. Increase the value. Great job on the texture. All right, next up is Jeff. All right, Jeff. Looks like you were going for more of like a fantasy type feel. The picture quality was not the most ideal for the scenario, but you submitted the picture and I'm going to do a critique. First thing is color boldness. If you're going to do fantasy stuff, you cannot let your paper dictate your colors. Come in here, let me not color on the original. Come in here and get that tree brown. Get the tree brown. Don't let it be white. Don't let it be the color of the paper. And then you can go in there and add your details. Once you have the colors, you know, add the texture that you want. You don't have to be too textured with it, but get your tree brown. That will help. The other thing is for the background, remember objects in the distance are less saturated and they're lighter. So you don't have to be as bright with the green. Your subject matter is the little fairy thingy, mabobber, whatever this creature is, you know, sitting here. So if you use a light background and then your subject is darker than that background, it's going to stand out more. The other thing is check your anatomy. Always, always, always check your anatomy. So just this leg in the back. Remember anchor points. So nice curve on the back. It's a nice curve on the back. Don't forget that characters have butts. All right, I know butts aren't real appealing, but they have butts. Okay, there needs to be a butt. It doesn't just go abdomen, legs. There's hips and there's a butt. So here's your anatomy flaw. The anchor point for the other knee, let's just shift it forward a little bit. It should be right here. But for some reason, based on the anchor point of your ankle and here, it's pointing this way. That's not correct. It would be this way. And then this leg connects up there. So, and then also the distance from your knee to your hip is the same distance from your ankle to your knee. So this knee should be up here. That knee should be up there. So your anatomy is off a little bit. You can use these simple anchor points. Your left foot is bigger than your right foot. Use these anchor points, use these shapes to your benefit when working with your anatomy. The arm looks about the same, about the right length. And then I'm not sure what his face is doing, but his neck, actually his neck looks good, but his chin is like super extra long. Like it's coming out real far here, right? So it should be rounded off a little bit more. There's his nose. Yeah, so something like that. So just check your anatomy. Do sketches. Just do sketches before you get into the coloring process, and do 2, 3, 4 sketches until you get the right position, and you map these out first. You map out your anatomy, and then once you have your skeleton, then you put on your muscles, that kind of thing. You don't have to like really draw a skeleton, but you get the idea. And then also, you know, again, be bold with your colors. Don't be afraid to get in there with bright red. Get in there with a little bit of a bright red. Same thing with the green here. Get in there with some bright greens. Especially on your foreground objects. Make the color pop on your foreground objects. That will help bring them out. All right. Nicely done, Jeff. Look forward to seeing more. Oh, another Castro did the wolf pastel painting as well. Since I've already done one of these, I'm just going to be real quick about it. Again, with the eye. Don't be afraid to make those eyes round. Don't be afraid to add more color to them. A little bit of orange in there will lend itself very, very well. Bright highlight. Don't forget the highlight. Just a sprinkle of highlight. Again, the fur on the top of the eye. Don't be afraid to frame that eye really well. It looks like you chose a little bit more of a yellow color for the fur. Again, with the Same idea as Tatiana's wolf, I think it was. Whose wolf was it? I'm not going to go back and find. I can't remember who it was. But the continuity of the fur, remember that all the color should be everywhere, and then it only subtly changes. So get your fur all blended together for the base layers, and make sure that it all has some continuity to it. Also, double check your length and your direction with the fur. You have a few areas that you can improve on. So you have this fur going this direction, right? And then all of a sudden fur starts going from this direction. So be careful with those transitions between the direction of the fur. There should be no crisscrosses like this in the wolf's fur. So just be more conscientious of that. Also, you could go darker. You can go darker with the fur. If we just darken up this part of the fur, you can start to see the shape of the wolf a little bit more. That goes with creating a bit more dimension in your drawing. Also, the snow is a bit too uniform. I'm not sure how you did the snow. It doesn't look like you used the same method that I did. Not sure how you did it, but it's a bit too uniform. Make your snow more organic looking by avoiding uniformity. Don't repeat the same process over and over again. Instead, change it. Like change the height in which you're scraping the pastel, change the direction you're scraping it, all of that. Keep it varied. Keep it random. That's the word I was looking for. The more random you add to it, the more realistic it will appear, because nature hates patterns. Also, yes, very good job. Keep up the good work, and thank you for following the tutorial. Also, appreciate that. All right, next up is Teresa. How many do I have left? Oh my goodness. I'm coming to the end, everyone. Coming to the end. Oh goodness. Let's see here. Another really lovely bird. Another really lovely bird. All right. So the first thing that I can tell you, Teresa, is that I love the colors. Okay, love the colors. This looks like pastel. Is this pastel? I think this might be pastel. With some colored pencils in there. Could be wrong. I think I'm right though. Oh, you're welcome, Jeff. Absolutely. What else is going on here? Okay, yes, so lovely colors, first off. Where can you improve? That is an excellent question. First thing is overall dimension. So let me just take a little bit of this blue. So the overall dimension of your bird doesn't really show up. Same thing with a few of the other pieces that I've been commenting on. So if you just darken around the edges a little bit, you'll start to see a bit more light being established. The beak could definitely use a bit more. Top side of the eye here, just let that sink in. Let that eye sink in a little bit, right? So now we have very flat, non-dimensional to something with much more dimension. And back to the eye looks pretty good. Increase the dimension of that by adding some color to the top side of your pupil. I just added a little bit of blue. You can increase the texture here, so you have like this purpley eye. Create lines that flow out from the pupil. Just a bunch of little lines there. That will help give your eye a bit more texture. There we go. So just a touch in the eye, a little bit in the eye. And then also, feathers don't have outlines. All right, so I noticed that all of the feathers on this bird have like what appears to be a black outline. If feathers don't have black outlines, I know that you want to increase the contrast between the feathers. You want the feathers to be very obviously separated, and I assume you're using a reference photo here, but that's just not how it works. The feathers aren't separated by black lines. So if you instead just focus on the accuracy of your colors on each individual feather, you'll get a much better result. So let's take this blue, we'll just darken it a little bit. And if I was to darken the feather around the base of it, something like this, and then I go to the next feather, and instead of outlining that feather with the black, I take that same darkish blue and I just focus on the accuracy of that next feather, and I go through and I do that on all of my feathers. You'll find that your feathers have a nice separation. Oops. They have a nice separation from one another, but you do it without adding unnecessary lines. So just like this. So you can start to see how those feathers, they're separating from one another, but not because I'm drawing lines around them. Instead, don't draw outlines on your feathers. Just draw each individual feather, and you'll find that they will separate themselves if you're following the pattern with your colors. Again, I love the colors, and drawing looks great. Keep up the good work. All right, up next is Crystal, and a really cool picture of Deadpool. And I've seen a lot of your work, Crystal, posted, and there is a consistency in your work that I think you can correct, and it will immediately increase the quality of your work overall. One of the number one issue that you're having with your colored pencil work is that you are not covering the paper. You're letting the paper show through in order to maintain a particular value that you want in the image. For instance, let's just look at one part of your Deadpool drawing here. This shoulder pad, it's like plastic or something, it's kind of shiny. If you cover up your paper entirely, cover it up entirely. So I'm going to use the gray that's here, and I'm going to two-tone it. I'm going to just two-tone it. So that's one color gray, and then you have black here, right? Cover up your paper entirely, right? So this is just that same shoulder pad, but with only two colors, the one gray and the one like darker gray, not quite black. Now let's use our colored pencils to shape this. So let's take this darker gray, and I'll use that around the edge of the shoulder pad. I don't have the reference photo for this image, so I'm just making this up. But the key here is to make the drawing overall look better. So I'll feather out the edge maybe, since maybe the plastic's not hard, or maybe it's like leather or something like that, right? So I'll feather out these edges. Now I need a bit of a highlight, so I'll take my white, or I'll take my lighter gray, and then I'll start coming in here and using my lighter colored pencils to start brightening up the shoulder pad in some areas like that. And maybe this shadowed part is two-toned. It has more than one shade of gray, right? So now you can see that I've covered the paper entirely, and everything looks smoother overall. I have a better texture in general. Another area that I'll use for an example is this red part of his suit. I can clearly see that the paper is still showing through. So again, let's two-tone it. I'm going to grab the light pink color that you have laying on here, and then the deeper red, right? Cover the paper entirely. And then I'm just going to feather that edge. Maybe I'll grab a light color and add a little bit of a highlight. Did I grab the right color? Just grab white. So I'll highlight the top side where it's brighter with my like white pencil or something. But you can see that the area overall looks better because the paper is covered. And it's not just because I'm doing this digitally. So make sure that you're covering the paper completely. Use the color at the correct value that you need to achieve, not like a darker color and then let the white paper show through to get the right value. Use the right valued pencil. That's what I'm saying. Anyways, it's a great drawing. Looks rather accurate for the most part, and keep up the good work. You might want to try to draw bigger also. That might help you get the details that you want to see in your work. Alright, next up is Wendy, Artista365. And she did this lovely portrait of Yoda in graphite, I believe. And let's see, where could Wendy improve here? Anyone want to take some guesses? Oh, thank you so much, Lisa, for the super chat. Happy New Year to you as well. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Really, really appreciate that. This drawing is very well done. Good texture and seemingly accurate to the reference based on my memory. There are a few things you can improve on. The first is more compositional, and that is going to be this like chopped off head type thing. We had a drawing, painting or something. It was the digital painting of the dog way back, like very first critique that I did. And it would be better, in my opinion, if instead of chopping this off, you let it fade away. If you let it fade away, then it just looks less like a floating head, right? Chopping something off at the neck, not really compositionally good idea. With a like a sharp, clean line. So I recommend letting the head, if you're gonna let it float, don't do a hard edge. You can even do like more like scratchy, sketchy lines. If you have some like lines where you're drawing the anatomy or something like that, having a few pencil scratchy lines might be a really good way to fade it away into it. Just make it look more like a drawing, you know. But chopping it off with a clean line, just don't do it at the neck. Not the best idea. Oh, thank you so much, Lily, for cat aid. I'm not sure I know what that means, but I really appreciate it. Well, actually, I'm sure in some parts of the world, it's already January 1st. We still have about 6.5 hours. Yeah, we got about 6.5 hours before it's New Year's for us here in Poland, but I might be done with the stream before then. All right, so the next thing that I think could be improved on in this drawing, again, is just the general contrast around these edges. If you went a little bit darker, Wendy, in some of these spots here, maybe in the ear just a tad. I know this is a lot easier to represent on digitally, but I think that there's still room to deepen some things with the graphite here. And you can always grab a colored pencil, black colored pencil, to really get black with the graphite. Underneath the eyebrow bone, I don't know if Yoda has hair there for his eyebrows, but underneath the nose, I'm not sure how far that cast shadow from the nose is. And then just like if you can go darker, you can go lighter. So grab your eraser, brighten up the cheeks, top sides of the cheeks, something like that. The lip, maybe a nice highlight on the nose. Top of the head, not sure how much lighter you can go, but just adds a bit more dimension, right? The sketchy lines let the head not look so floaty. I think that would benefit the drawing. And then of course the eyes. You can use my little technique with a white colored pencil, scrape off a little bit and get a nice speck of highlight, right? Get a little speck of highlight in there with a white colored pencil. Make those eyes really shine. Overall, the eyes are good. I don't think there's much more you could do to them other than, sprinkle in a little bit of a highlight there. I can't tell if you drew this on toned paper. If you did draw this on toned paper, it would be a lot easier to do the things that I'm saying you should do. But also, if it is on toned paper, you could have brightened up with some white colored pencil or charcoal or whatever around Yoda. So this picture would look really, really good on toned paper, because then you could use the white pencil to brighten up around Yoda like this. Give him a really nice aura. It is a Yoda after all, right? Yeah. So you could do that. So you can see just a little bit more dimension in the drawing really goes a long way, right? All right. So excellent work, Wendy. All right, up next is Jennifer. Jennifer, the picture quality is very, 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 very low because the picture was so small. I have it stretched. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. So the picture quality is quite low. Excellent picture. Definitely a lot to say about it. But let's refer to just the art stuff of what we could say about it. First thing, let's just talk about the flag really quick. You could have shaded the flag so that it has a bit of a wave to it. So if I just come in here with a bit of gray, Too much blue. There. So with a bit of gray, then the flag will just immediately have some quality to it that makes it not look so flat, right? So you could have done that with the flag. And then also skin tones. I know skin tones are not easy. I realize this. If I'm not mistaken, this was done with some pan pastels, some colored pencils and whatnot. Ninja purple. Gotta have your ninja purple. Alright, skin tones. Skin tones have ninja purple in them. And that will help bring your shadows to life. It might be too much purple. Let's get the right purple, shall we? Yeah, there we go. There's the ninja purple. That will bring your skin tone, the shadows, just the shadows. Ninja purple are for the shadows. Transition. Shadow transitions. Because the skin needs a whole bunch of colors to work really well. But the skin here is just really flat, doesn't have a lot of dimension to it. And if you expand your color a bit more, then you can start adding some real value to the skin. Already more three-dimensional. You can bring in some nice pinks. Nice pink colors into the skin, make it more lively. There might be too much pink on the leg, but it's just the skin is a bit too yellow, so you need to bring in some more reds, some more oranges. We can grab some orange really quick. I'm just kind of scribbling this color all over the place, but a bit more orange into your skin. Bit more pink and a little bit of purple in the shadows, and then you're going to want to really darken some of these shadows here. So there you go. There's where I think you can improve a bit. You can also go the other direction with the skin. You know, add some nice highlights. Highlights are good. That will also add quite a bit of dimension to your cute little baby here. So just like going darker, you can go lighter, and that will help the three-dimensional quality of your image. All right. Wonderful painting, Jennifer. I really like it. All right. Next up is Mara. I don't know if I saw Mara in the chat, but this is a lovely painting of her cat that, if I'm not mistaken, passed away. So I'm sorry for that, Mara. But beyond that, the painting is fantastic. Love this painting. Considering the reference photo here, you make the reference photo look bad. The painting is so good, the reference photo looks bad. You did really good on capturing the eyes and improving them. The eyes look better than the reference photo, and yes, the fur does look really great. You did just an awesome job at it. Black cats are tricky. Black fur is tricky, but you knocked it out of the park. And the color on the inside of the ears is also really, really good. It's like the exact color it needs to be to just look right. Where I think you can improve, again, with the eyes. So I can't tell if the photograph was taken with a flash on. It looks like it to me. That explains the sparkle in the eye. But what it ended up doing, even though the photograph still managed to come out quite well, is that it lightened up all of the eye. So if you pretend that it didn't, let's add dark brown actually. If you pretend that it didn't and you darken the top side of the eye, and you pretend that that flash from the camera didn't completely blow out this cat's poor eyeballs, then your eyes are going to look more three-dimensional, just a bit more deep. The other thing that the flash did is it kind of removed the fun texture in the cat's eye. So again, with some browns or light orange, we could go in here. I don't know why I'm zoomed out so far. We could go in here. We can add some of that texture that was kind of stolen from the photograph back into the eye. Since you're working a little bit larger, you can have some fun with the texture in the eye and just add a little bit, because cats have, they have really cool eyes. So you want to make sure that you don't leave that out. There we go. So just a little bit of texture in the eye. So this is where we started, this is where we're at. So you can see the eyes just become a little bit more three-dimensional. The other thing about this painting is that you added a lot of purple to the ground, and to even some reddish brown to the background. And the problem with your color choice is that you did not include it into the cat. So you're gonna want to take some of that purple and add it to the cat, especially around the transitions from the highlights to the black, because that purple is going to show up if this cat was actually in a scene with a lot of purple in it. See, the photograph was taken with the cat laying on what looks like gray, and that doesn't really change the highlight transitions in the fur. So increase the purple. If you want to go with this super bright purple for this painting, then you need to do a little wash on your cat with that purple. You can see that this transition, I'm pointing at my screen like you can see my fingers. I've been streaming for too long. You can see right here that transition looks a lot more natural with the scene because it has that purple in it. So you need to add that purple to your cat to make it look more natural. The other thing is that, remember, the picture was taken with a flash, removing the drop shadow. It removed the drop shadow that would otherwise be right here under the cat. So bring that drop shadow back. Bring it back. Go really dark. Bring that drop shadow back. Make it up. Make it up if you have to. The other thing is with this, let's get rid of this. Let's get rid of this background, it's distracting. Now it's just the painting. The other thing is your background here is much too in focus. So let's just copy that layer. Let's blur it. Inverse brush. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to blur out the background. And I'm going to slowly let it come into focus. Get rid of all this texture that you have in the back. Get rid of all of it, trust me. There you go. And also get rid of it up front here a little bit. You know what? Let me see if I can blur it like this. Yeah. So get rid of it right up front, get rid of it in the back. Now you can see that it pulls the focus. It pulls the focus right into the cat's face. The texture in the front on the floor in front of the cat's face, it should not match the same level of texture on the wall in the back and the floor in the back. Get rid of the texture completely, blur it out as much as possible, and you'll see that kind of focus in the cat's eyes. So here's where we started. This is where we started with your painting, and with increasing a bit of the contrast and texture in the eyes, adding some of the purple into the fur to match the surroundings, and then blurring the background. This is what we end up with, right? So I think it's safe to say that's an improvement. Just a little bit more dynamic, brings a little bit more focus to the face, and the cat matches the surroundings by adding some of that purple. But other than that, it looks great, Mara. Keep up the good work. Your paintings are fantastic. All right, down to the final 4. This one is from Debbie. Nice little picture of a rose. I think this was done with pastels. It looks like pastels. I could be wrong. It could just be colored pencils on a nice textured paper. Everything about this looks good, with one exception. You're using the wrong color to shade your flower. You're using black, or at least to me it looks black. You don't want to do that. Use a deeper red. If you shade this with a deeper red, the flower is going to have much more contrast, and it's not going to look faded. Because you're using black in the red here, your flower looks really faded and dull. Don't use the black, just use a deeper red. Cover up that paper. You seem to do fine with these flowers in the back, but you messed up with this flower here a bit. So just use a deeper red, don't use black. But other than that, everything pretty much works with this. This one's quick and easy. But the picture looks great. I mean, I'm being nitpicky. Just cover the paper, add more layers, use brighter reds, use darker reds to get your values. Don't add black to your color. Alright, up next is Christine. Oh, she's still in the chat. Hello, Christine. Hello again, I guess. Thank you again for the lovely card, by the way. The lovely card that you sent me. And Anna, of course. Really appreciate that. And I thanked you. I don't know if you saw that live stream. I thanked you last week when I got the card. But, of course, you submitted this one. What could I possibly say about this? It's adorable. It's adorable. You're cheating by submitting the most adorable thing in the world. Where could you improve? I'm thinking. Let me think, okay? It's not fair. I love your colors. I love the blue and the purple with the gray bits in there. I think you could have increased the contrast just a tiny bit. Oh no, people are going to be setting off fireworks already. Hopefully you guys don't hear the fireworks. If you separate this, I'm pretty sure this is an otter, right? If you separate it from the water a little bit more, just a bit of white here, and you know, bring the white through the water a little bit, just like that. Just add a little bit more to the water. So here's where we're at. That's what I did with the water. It just makes it look more watery, you know, a little bit of highlights there. I think it'd benefit from being separated from the water just a tiny bit more. It's not fair. It's too cute. Touch a highlight on the nose, maybe. A little bit on the fingers here. The fur's wet, right? The fur's wet, so it's got a little shiny bit on the fur. You could probably add a little bit more highlight on the fur just to make it be wetter. I like the sticks, the sticks down here in the bottom left corner, but my brain says, where's the sticks on the right side? My brain just wants a little bit of a stick on the right side as well. Again, I love the colors, but the snow is somewhat having a competition with the otter, and it just has this pattern. I don't know what it is about it. Maybe it's just that there's a tad too much snow. There might be just a little bit too much snow for the amount of texture that it's pushing into the background. I wonder if you were to maybe not have allowed all that snow to be in focus. So I'm gonna just blend out some of the snow and let a little less of it be so in focus. So maybe just a few of the snowflakes are in focus and then most of it is out of focus. I think maybe that works a little bit. The nice dark colors of the brown fur is really great when it comes to standing out from the background, but the top of the head, not so much. So I think maybe if the top side of the head was shaded just a tiny bit darker so that it stands out from the background just a little bit more. Just a tiny bit more. So this is what I added to it. This is the difference. This is how subtle the difference is with the snowflakes. This is on, this is off. Let me zoom in. That's what I added. So here's the difference with the snowflakes. Some of them are just blurred out a little bit more, and I feel like it just pulls the attention more in towards the focal point of the image, which is of course the otter. Alrighty then. I think that covers it. Hopefully You liked the critique of that, Christine. You did a fantastic job. I love it. All right, I got another Christine here. Last Christine was with a K. This Christine is with a CH. Just like my sister. Yeah, I need some water. I don't know if you guys can tell. I'm losing my voice. I've been talking for... How long have I been streaming?
It's 5:30.
I'm gonna need some tea after this. I'm gonna lose my voice for like 3 weeks.
Oh, good. You want some?
This picture, I really like this picture. What I would say about this is that the colors are really, really lovely. I love the blues and the orange brown fur of the deer. The grass is a good color too. You have nice natural looking colors. Again with landscapes, right? Again with landscapes is that you have to balance saturation. And the color in these distant tree bushes, I can't tell what they are. I can't tell if they're supposed to be trees or if they're supposed to be a bush. They match the same saturation of this grass here. And so it needs to be more faded for the back, a little bit more faded in saturation for the back. And then you can increase the saturation in the foreground. Have the grass a bit brighter and stuff in the foreground. So here's very, very small difference, very, very small difference. Also, the stream is a bit too wide back here. It's curving around, so it needs to be very thin, almost just a line. It needs to be a bit thinner because perspective, it's going away from you, and as it turns, you almost see none of it. The other issue here with this this pastel painting is you have no established light source. So the deer, I can't tell exactly what direction the light is coming from on the deer, and so let me just grab blue. And I'm just going to do a bit of shading here. I'm just going to darken the right side of the deer because that's where I feel like the light is not hitting. I feel like it's hitting more of the left side of the deer, so I'm just going to shade this side of the deer. Just like this. So now we have an established light source on the deer. The light is coming from the left. The reason I chose the left is because of the rocks. The rocks have a shadow on the right side, so I can only assume that the light is on the other side. So the rocks need to have shadows. They should have shadows. The deer should definitely have a shadow, right? So let's just scribble in a quick cast shadow. And then what about this tree? This tree should definitely have a big old shadow. Pretty much this whole area is cast shadow from the tree. But if you look at the tree trunk, there's an inconsistency between the tree trunk and the rocks. The rocks have the light on the left side, but the tree trunk has the light on the right side. So this is a problem. This is a continuity error. So make sure that when you're preparing a scene that you establish your light source and you don't change it between objects, because it might not throw off the normal person. Like if somebody is Either they just come across your work and they see it and they're like, oh, that's so lovely. But it will throw off an artist that looks at your work, because they'll be discombobulated, and a decent artist will be discombobulated but not know why. But a good artist will recognize, wait a minute, where's the light source? I'm being told from multiple objects that the light source is all over the place, and it just confuses us. So establish your light source, and then stick to it. And that goes with the body of your tree here. You'll want to obviously have the shadow on the right side, and then the highlight on the other side. So just be careful with that. It's a really great picture, but there's some fatal flaws in it with the light source, and the perspective. So it's the light source and the perspective that really throw this image off, because your deer is like half as tall as your tree, and I can't tell if this tree is meant to be like a baby tree, because the deer just looks like a monster. This is the biggest baby deer in the world. It looks like a behemoth, because these rocks also look large, but the tree comparatively, if you cover up the deer with your hand, you would never guess that there's a baby deer underneath your hand, because that tree, and the deer is like standing right next to the tree. So the perspective is scaled, is off scale. When you're doing a scene, when you're creating a scene like this and whatnot, make sure you do sketches beforehand so that you know your scale is correct. Just make sure that your scale is correct. Other than that, like the colors, the texture, the execution is really great. Just be careful, be wary of your light sources, be wary of your perspective. Here's where we started. Here's what I changed with the cast shadows. Not a whole lot that I can correct when it comes to the scale and the perspective, but just be wary of that. Do multiple thumbnail sketches to make sure that you have everything right and it looks correct. But other than that, it's a fantastic painting, Christine. All right, we're down to the final one. I've only been streaming for like nearly 3 hours. How are you guys still watching me? Oh, goodness. This is another pastel painting by Linda. And this is not an easy pastel painting, I'll tell you that. I think I read in the comments that this is like one of your first pastel paintings or something crazy like that. I can't believe you chose such a ridiculously hard subject. My goodness. You are definitely brave, that is for sure. I don't even know if I would try a picture this complex right now with my skills. But you have a lot of things good and correct about this drawing. One really quick thing that is kind of driving me nuts right now that I have to fix immediately: perspective. Like I am super keen to knowing when the perspective of something is off. It sticks out to me like crazy. This barn door needs to go like this. All right, there you go. I helped you. The roof of this house is also off a little bit. It's a little bit high. But anyways, I had to fix those things like right off the bat. They were driving me nuts. Anyways, so there's one thing about this this pastel piece that stands out the most, and that is your lack of dimension throughout the image overall. And a lot of this comes with a lack of experience with color. And what I am seeing in your, what I'm seeing in this piece overall is kind of like a shape and a color. Sort of like a very, very basic paint by numbers. For instance, let's just have a look at this lady's sweater. It's this shape here, right? It's this blue shape. When you look at it, you know it's a sweater based on the context of all the other shapes and colors. You kind of just have this blue color, and then you have this slightly, very slightly darker color of blue, and that's it. You just kind of have these two colors. But if you were to take a third color, a darker, much darker color, and come in here and start, okay, well, there should be a cast shadow. You see this horse. This horse is casting a cast shadow over her or whatnot. The light is on the right side. There should be more colors than just those two. So just make sure that you aren't just filling in the shapes with arbitrary colors based on the way that they appear in the reference photo. The same holds true with the boots. They're just kind of like these brown shapes, right? These boots are just like brown L's. Make them more three-dimensional by, increasing the value range in the object. If it helps, just treat each object like it's in its own individual painting. Go in there and put in the details on the boots. I don't know if these boots have laces, but I feel like they should have laces. Some minor details and whatnot. Just fill in the information that the reference photo has. The horse looks pretty good. There's some color ranges here. I think maybe the highlight on some of the bits of the horse could probably be accentuated a bit more. The white parts of the horses aren't pure white, which you seem to have gotten quite a bit. There's some lighter toned grays throughout the fur that you could smooth out. Speaking of smoothing out, you could certainly benefit from adding more layers to your paper. Not sure what kind of pastel paper you're using, but you can get it smoother for sure if you just add more layers to your painting in general. Other than that, I mean, the amount of detail that you have in this image is impressive. I think you can take it farther if you just don't lose your patience. Okay, I know, like, you get caught up with this milk crate here, sitting here with all of the crazy amount of details in it, but you have to take your time with each individual object. And if you break it up into, oh, well, let's just work on the horse today, and just work on the horse and get it right, get it the way you want it, and then come over here to the lady, work on the face, get the face brighter, get it more detailed, get it more accurate to the reference photo. The horse and the lady are your, they're the anchor point in your image, so you don't want to lose patience on those two objects. The crate and stuff, you can kind of ignore that stuff. You could, in fact, you could have blended this all out here. All of this background stuff, you didn't have to bring so much focus to that. You could have had it more blurry. and that would bring even more focus to your foreground objects if you just had it a little bit more blurry. So that's an option. Just keep that in mind. You know, not every photograph that you use for reference is the best version of that photograph. So use what you learn artistically to, you know, maximize the best version of the reference photo. You know, use your artistic license, as the phrase goes, or however it goes. I'm just making it up. I just make everything up. You guys know that. That is it though. It's a great painting, Linda, and I appreciate you sending it in. But that is going to finally do it for today's drawing journal. I had no idea that I was going to be streaming for 3 hours, but I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I think it's a great way to close out the year for sure. So I hope that you guys enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. I really liked seeing the best work that you guys completed for 2018. It's been quite a journey, I think, for all of us, and yeah, it was a great year. I think my channel has grown like so much. It's been amazing, and 2019 is going to be insane. Anna and I we met with a realtor this past Friday, and so hopefully in 2019 we'll be able to find a house and I'll be able to set up like the studio of my dreams. I really want to give you guys like the best possible that I can, and I've been designing my new studio space in my head to just make the best like live streams possible for the subject matter that I do. And I just want to be able to like read the comments easier. I want to be able to like face the camera more naturally and all of that. So hopefully some good changes will come. I've noticed a really good influx on new patrons, which helps me out a ton. You guys are also amazing. And just to remind everybody, I will be streaming over on Patreon tomorrow. Be doing a pastel painting of like a lake thingy, like a sunset lake or something like that. I almost forget, but yeah, it will be great. And trying to think of what else. Oh, have a fantastic new year. I'm sure you guys got plans or something to do tonight. Stay safe, and that's gonna be it. I will see you guys, I won't say it. I'll see you guys tomorrow, and have a lovely rest of your day. Take care. Peace.